gentlemen, let's get ready to rumble!
Hold it, you're not that pretty. I'm a bad man. Wait. I took up the wall.
I bear witness, there's only one God, Allah, and Muhammad is his final messenger. That's what I said, Larry, on the bungle fight. Thanking you.
They call me the problem, but you could call me the can man, because anybody can get it. Africans, Americans, Dominicans, Mexicans, anybody can get it.
How y'all doing, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to Blow by Blow, episode 6 with AKHi in the corner. Go ahead, call in to hold your position. The number is in the description box. Tonight was a hell of a night. The return of the pound for pound number one, the king of boxing at the moment, Terence Crawford, which he put on a hell of a statement, to say the least. But before I get to Terence Crawford versus Earl Spence, Bob Arum claiming that Earl Spence is ducking, Manny Pacquiao as the next opponent for Bud, and so many more other topics, I really want to touch on, first of all, on Maloney, I believe his name is. He fought on the co-main event tonight, and that was a bad call by the referee. That was one of the worstest calls by the referee I had ever seen in the sport of boxing. And recently, they have what you call, looking back to a particular foul or a knockdown, and they could if the referee rules a certain foul or a certain knockdown as a knockdown, or he takes a point off, so on and so forth, they could go back and replay and make corrections for the referee mistake, right? However, it took so long for them to correct the mistake the referee made, which was a bad call, calling the swelling by Maloney opponent due to a headbutt when it was due to a sharp jab that he landed throughout the fight. He landed like 50 jabs, in which it caused his opponent eye to swell. So for them to take away Maloney victory, that hurts the sport right there, because Maloney, obviously, in the first fight, he lost to this man. I wasn't aware of this fight, and a lot of people felt like he was making excuses when he said he was sick. He said he felt like throwing up. Normally, when fighters say they felt sick during the fight, they're just making excuses. However, Maloney went back and trained not 2 months, double that amount of time. Matter of fact, nearly triple that amount of time. He trained for 5 months just to get robbed by the referee due to his bad call, claiming that the swelling on Maloney opponent eye was due to a headbutt when it was due to a jab that he was sticking him with all night. That's the bad calls in the sport of boxing that put a black eye on the sport of boxing. So I don't understand why it took him so long to replay the first round. Matter of fact, they replayed the whole fight, and they still went on with a no decision contest when it was clearly a victory for Maloney. So, hopefully they correct that and they rule it a victory for Maloney. Maloney won tonight, so he shouldn't, he definitely got robbed. So he shouldn't feel no shame. He was victorious. He trained for 5 months and he got the job done. So props to him. But nevertheless, let's go ahead and start off.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to rumble!
Shout out to everybody in the chat. I appreciate the love and support. Shout out to Jones. And I know, I don't got to say it. Bud put Omaha on the map. So let's go ahead and get it started. make sure you guys call in. The number is in the description box. But obviously, Terence Crawford versus Kell Brook. When the bell first rang in the first round, Kell Brook looked extremely sharp. You really don't know how an opponent going to look, especially if there's a question mark next to his name like Kell Brook, until the fight itself. And in the first round, Kell Brook looked extremely sharp. He nearly looked like prime Kell Brook, the way he was sticking with his jab. And it's fair to say he won the first 2 rounds. Clearly, you could even give him the 3rd round. However, what's special about Terence Crawford, like I told you guys on my post-fight video, which I'm going to leave in the comment section below, is that he always make adjustments on the fly. And he figured out Kell Brook. He was trying to lure Kell Brook in order to counter him. But since Kell Brook wouldn't commit, Kell Brook, he stayed at a distance, timed Terence Crawford pretty well. And the moment you start thinking like, oh, is this another upset? I mean, it's 2020, the year of the upsets. Out of nowhere, Terence Crawford shows that he's not just pound for pound #1 due to his skill level. He's also one of the hardest punchers in the game, pound for pound. He landed what it seemed like a jab or a short right hook. I couldn't tell, but he timed Kell Brook coming in with the right hand, that's what he was doing the whole time. He was trying to time Kell Brook, coming in and commit on a punch, in which Terence Crawford met him with a counter right away. And I mean, the way Kell got hurt by Terence, I never seen that before. Obviously, the punch in the sport of boxing that hurt the most is the punch you don't see coming. It ain't, the punch that, the haymakers. The haymakers normally don't cause the devastating KOs. Is usually the short, sharp punch. And this shows that Terence Crawford have dynamites on both hands. The way he managed to hurt Kell Brook just with a short punch, as a counter, in which he had Kell Brook stumbling backwards. And then obviously the fact that he touched the canvas, that saved him for a little while, because once Terence Crawford jumped on him, that's when the referee pretty much separated him. But as soon as I saw Kell Brook turn away from punches, that's when I knew the fight was over. You do not turn your back or turn away from punches coming your way unless you clearly hurt and don't know where you at. And that's where that's what happened to Kell Brook pretty much. So, obviously Terence Crawford finished him. Kell Brook, he kind of disagreed with the stoppage. He felt like he wanted to go out on his shield, but I'm glad that the referee stopped the fight. That was a good call, because like I said before, when you turn pretty much your back away and you're not looking at your opponent while he's punching you, trying to get away from punches, getting blindsided while getting hit with haymakers, that's when it's over. And Terence Crawford, like I said, he a finisher. He got that killer instinct in him. And to beat a guy like Terence Crawford, a fighter is going to have Goku Ultra instincts in order to avoid Terence Crawford counters. Like I said before, Terence Crawford is one of the best counters in the sport of boxing. He don't just counter you precisely. He also have devastating power while he's countering. He's very accurate and precise. And, speed kills. So if you add speed on top of power, that's a dangerous man right there. And that's why he's the pound for pound king. I've been telling you guys, a lot of people didn't want to give Terence Crawford his props, claiming he didn't fought this guy, he didn't fought that guy. But I kept telling people, remember, every time Terence Crawford stepped in with an opponent, since Prescott, I believe that was his name, the guy that knocked out Amir Khan, which that was the victory that put him on the scene. Terence Crawford took that fight in 2-week notice, moving up in weight, and he dominated him. As soon as I saw that fight, I told you guys years back when I really was on and off on YouTube, I told you guys that Terence Crawford has the potential to become pound for pound #1 just based on that performance. And looking back today, I was 100% correct, because like I said, from that point forward, every time Terence Crawford stepped in the ring against Ricky Byrne in the UK, obviously he was favored to win that fight, but other fights too, such as the fight right after that, Gamboa. A lot of people doubted him against Gamboa. He proved everybody wrong. Obviously, that wasn't the 126-pound Gamboa, but that was still a prime Gamboa at 135. He moved up to 140 after that, and he cleared out the division. People said he was ducking Flex Diaz, who was a gold medal at the time, a gold medalist at the time, who just beat supposedly Lamar Pearson. And, you know, obviously, I think it was a draw, but it was clear as day Flex Diaz won the fight, and he was a gold medalist. Crawford got into the ring with him, washed him when people were saying he was ducking him. So every time people point at a fighter that Crawford was supposedly ducking, Crawford fought him and washed him. Postal. People said he was ducking Postal. That was supposed to be his biggest test. He got in the ring with Postal. He clearly washed him. So, like I said, every time people had, you know, doubt when it came to Crawford, just like his nickname, Bud, he is the smoke. So wherever there's smoke, there's a Bud. There's a Crawford in there. And there's no smoke and mirrors with Bud. Whatever you see is the person you get. So when Terence Crawford, like I said, he moved up to 140. He cleaned out the division, moved up to 147, fought for a world title right away. Jeff Horn, a lot of people felt Pacquiao won that fight, but regardless if you thought Pacquiao won or lost, he gave Pacquiao a hell of a fight. He was bullying Pacquiao. Like let's all be honest. And Terence bullied Jeff Horn and stopped him with ease. He washed him. And can you guys believe, since Terence Crawford, supposedly this little guy at 147, since he came to this division, he knocked out every single opponent. And he's supposedly a boxer. And he stopped every single opponent he'd been in the ring with. From undefeated opponents to proven veterans to now the special Kell Brook. It's rare to see knockouts at this level in this devastating fashion. Like we saw one, I believe, a week or two ago. However, obviously, Leo Santa Cruz was the smaller guy. But you can't say that for Kell Brook, can you? Kell Brook was supposed to be the bigger guy. But skills pay the bills at the end of the day. And Terence Crawford showed the world to prove that he's pound for pound number one. This time to prove. Because like I said, he got a lot of doubters, but he proved his doubters wrong. Regardless of what you think about Kell, if you think, you know, he's not as good as he was when he fought Earl, that's cool if you felt like that. But according to Kell, he was in the best shape of his life. And we saw that tonight. It ain't like, you know, Kell Brook went to the ring and got washed from round one. No, he arguably won the first 3 rounds. But as soon as Terence Crawford solves Kell Brook, he put it together like puzzle, like he always do, and stopped a name, a proven veteran in the game, Kell Brook, in a devastating fashion. So, you know, like I said, Kell Brook, you know, shout out to Kell Brook. He didn't stop Postal. Yeah, but Postal was at 140, not 147. I said he stopped every opponent at 147 ever since he moved up to 147. And remember, the reason why he didn't stop Postal was very cautious, you know, and he managed to hurt Postal multiple times. Let's not forget, Postal arguably beat Ramirez his last fight, you know, just to show you that Crawford fought people, but people don't want to give Bud his credit. And hopefully this time around, ESPN recognize the talent they have on their hand. Instead of wasting their time with Lomachenko, erasing his losses, they could do all that. They could promote him. They could hype up these fighters on the hope list, but they can't fight for them. However, Terence, he could fight for himself. He showed us why he's pound for pound number one. So, like I said, he the pound for pound king, no question about it. No, but what if? Because it ain't just the fact that he wins all his fights, is the fact that he dominated every single opponent he been in the ring with. Dominated. No one have given Terence Crawford a fight right now. However, the one, the truth, Errol Spence is most likely the only one that could put a blemish on my man Terence Crawford. That's why we all want to see the fight. And that's why Terence said he want that fight as bad as he want to breathe. So we're going to talk about all of that tonight. Like I said, from you know, Bob Arum, claiming Errol Spence ducking him. You know, so we're gonna put respect on Errol Spence's name because, like I said, one thing I do not like is when there's false narratives thrown out there. So I must clear her up. So, like I said before, we're gonna talk about it. One thing for sure, you know, Errol Spence said he coming for that pound for pound #1 slot. He told Crawford he's coming for that pound for pound #1 slot. So we're gonna talk about it. Now, obviously, Kell Brook came out and he reacted to the TKO loss to Crawford. He said no excuses. He was the better man. He also added that he was in the best shape of his life. He never felt better on, you know, when it came to making weight. He just said it's as simple as he said as simple as Bud caught him with a punch that he did not see coming. He didn't know what happened. I didn't know what happened. I was watching the fight. I didn't know what happened till the fight got stopped. I had to watch it on replay because it was so quick and it was just so short. And like I said, normally you don't see somebody get hurt that much to that extent with a short, sharp jab or a hook, whatever it was. You just don't see that. Not at this level against a guy like that has an iron chin. We saw Canelo Alvarez, you know, we saw Canelo when he fought Amir Khan. He lost arguably the first 5 rounds. Definitely the first 4. However, he got the victory in the 6th round. He was two weight divisions above Amir Khan. Amir Khan doesn't have the best chin in the world. He caught Amir Khan with a perfect punch with that overhand right. However, when Amir Khan fought Terence Crawford, everybody said, listen, Amir Khan is going to give Bud a good fight. Like he's going to possibly outbox him early because Terence is a slow starter, supposedly. But what did Bud do? He countered him with the overhand right that it took Canelo Alvarez to land for 6 rounds. It took him 6 rounds to land that punch. Bud landed it in the 1st round. I don't even know if he lost a round against Amir Khan, just to show you what kind of talent we're dealing with. So, you know, obviously, Kell Brook, he didn't know what came at him. Bud, what he was doing, he was waiting for Kell Brook to commit to come in and counter, and that's exactly what he did. You know, obviously, Kell Brook came out and said he wanted to go out on his shield. He a warrior. He does not want to be saved by the bell or by the referee. But, you know, I'm glad the referee stopped the fight because I didn't want to see Kell Brook get hurt because of the fact that he's a warrior. He always fight the best. He gave Errol Spence his first opportunity at greatness. So I always respect Kell Brook for fighting the best. He fought Gennady Golovkin. He fought Errol Spence and not Terence Crawford. For the people that say, oh, well, he only took this fight to get paid. Nah, he really wanted this fight. He'd been calling for this fight for a year, and he really felt like he could beat Bud Crawford. If it was for the money, he would not have taken this fight with a pay cut. I heard he got paid like $2 million. That's nothing compared to what Amir Khan got. And I think Amir Khan got $5 million guaranteed plus pay-per-view revenue, which probably turned out like $7 million at the end of the day. So, I mean, the fact that Brook took this fight for a pay cut, $2 million, chump change, just to prove that he could beat Bud, you got to give, you know, to Kell Brook his respect. You know, like I said, he's a warrior. I'm glad that the referee stopped the fight because it's one thing if Brook got stopped while he was defending himself, looking at Terence, but he was looking away from Terence. He was trying to get away, and he wasn't aware where he was at in the ring. He was just getting punched around, and he was all over the place. When you get punched by haymakers while being blindsided, it's over. So I'm glad the referee stopped the fight. But like I said, he's a warrior. He took this fight for his legacy, and he showed his class in the ring and out of the ring with his class act by not making any excuses, claiming that, you know, obviously the better man won tonight. He was in shape. Like he stated before the fight, he felt like, I didn't say this, he felt like that he was in the best shape of his life, in a better shape than he was against Porter and Errol Spence. Obviously, I don't know how accurate that is, but I'm not Kell Brook. Kell Brook said it, so I have to believe the man. You know what I mean? And obviously, Kell Brook and Terence Crawford discussed the fight after the fight, and they were talking about how they had a classic moment, discussed in the fight, showing a great sportsmanship in which Kell was asking Crawford, like, man, what were you doing? Like, how did you catch me with that punch? I didn't see it coming, you know. And that's when Bud was telling him, I was getting frustrated because you wouldn't commit, you wouldn't lead, and I was waiting on you to come in so I could counter you. And once obviously Kell broke this, so that's when it was lights out for him. And what's shocking is Ward brought up the fact that Terence Crawford doesn't have a game plan. He found out recently that Terence goes into fights without a game plan, which is shocking to hear at this level, to go in a fight and not have a game plan. But he said that Bud always make adjustments on the fly during the fight, just to show you how talented is Crawford. He make adjustments during the fight. I mean, that's unheard of, to be honest with you. Go ahead, pick up a call. My man said, can't be the boogeyman if I'm chasing you. We gonna talk about it. We gonna get to that Errol Spence. We're gonna get to that Errol Spence versus Bud. Like I've been telling you guys, Errol Spence the truth, and you best believe Bud is cut from that same cloth. Bud, he with a smoke. They don't call him Bud for nothing. You know what I'm saying? So we're gonna talk about it. How you doing, Aki? Who this is and where you calling from?
What's up, Aki? This is Gary from Ohio.
Gary from Ohio. What's going on? What was your take on the knockout? And did you see, Kell Brook and Crawford, obviously after the fight, they were talking with each other. What's your take on, Andre Ward claiming that Terence Crawford doesn't have a game plan when he goes into fights? He just figure his opponent out on the fly.
Yeah, I don't buy that. Crawford, I mean, that might be true, but Crawford's a professional fighter. You know what I'm saying? Like, I bet you he knows what Kell Brook's tendencies are. He's not going into a fight blind. You know what I'm saying? I don't think he's that good of a fighter. As good as he is, he's not good enough to just ad-lib against another professional boxer. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I think he's that good of a fighter now. But as far as him not having game plan, Floyd Mayweather said the same thing. Floyd said he don't study his opponents. He just figure them out when he's in the ring. That's his training job. But knowing Terence and Floyd, they obviously watch boxing, and they got a boxer eye is different than a boxing fan eye. They could see things that we don't see. So I'm pretty sure when they obviously Crawford watched Kell Brook before, so he knew what he was getting himself into. One thing about shadow boxing is when you shadow box, you got to picture your opponent right in front of you. So you have to have kind of like a game plan of what you're going to do. But I think he just means like they don't have a game plan in which, okay, you're going to apply pressure for 12 rounds, and then, we're going to break them down to knock them out. It's not that type of game plan. It's like, go in the ring. We're going to prepare for everything and figure them out. We're going to make adjustments after that. I think that's what he meant by that.
Okay. Yeah, I mean that might be true then. Yeah, I could see that for sure. I guess, like, in terms of the fight, like that's where I might disagree with you. So I think,
and just I don't mean to cut you off, but I mean, your volume, I don't know if it's low on my end, but I don't know if you're speaking kind of away from the phone. If you could speak a little louder, because I can't hear you as loud. I just want to make sure everybody can hear you.
It's no problem. Give me 1 second.
Shout out to everybody in the chat. Like I said, go ahead, call in to hold your position. Man, we got so much to talk about tonight. Man, I can't wait.
All right, can you hear me now?
Oh, I can hear you much better. Yes, sir.
All right, cool. So yeah, that's where I might disagree with you on the fight itself, because I feel like Kell Brook won all 3 rounds before the 4th. And Terence Crawford needed to outbox Kell Brook tonight. And he didn't do that. And people like Sean Porter, Earl, Spence, Danny Garcia are going to look at that and be like, he basically got dominated for 3 rounds before he got caught, before Kell Brook got caught. And those better welterweights over there on PBC aren't going to be scared of Terence Crawford. You know what I'm saying? So that's not good for Crawford, especially now that he's basically a free agent and he might be going over to PBC.
Yeah. Now, I mean, you want to get my take on it, or are you still going?
No, go for it.
Yeah, well, I'll be honest with you. I mean, obviously, the Terence Crawford, like Ward pointed out, he tried to figure you out in the first couple rounds and get your timing. Bud don't really get started till he switched southpaw. I know he says he's naturally a right-hander or orthodox, but he's really a southpaw. You know, that's his. That's what he really comfortable with. And you know, when he switched to a southpaw, I believe in the last couple seconds of the second round, you could clearly see in the third round he started doing much better. I felt like, you know, the third round could have went either way. I don't think Kell Brook clearly won that round. I had Kell Brook winning 2-1. I think I saw Terence win the third round, but I could possibly be wrong. You know, it was a close round. But my point is, he started doing better, and that's what Bud does. He make adjustments in the first 2 rounds. The same thing happened with Postal, if you remember. You know, Postal. You know, it took Bud to figure out Postal for 2 rounds. After 2 rounds, that's when he started piecing him up. And what's highly impressive about what Bud did tonight is that he stopped a guy that has an iron chin with arguably a jab. So the guys you mentioned, like Porter lost to Kell Brook. Errol Spence. A lot of people felt like Errol Spence, you know, had a war with Kell Brook, this and that. I'll be honest with you. I had Kell Brook winning 2-3 rounds max against Errol Spence. I felt like Errol Spence, you know, he only lost the second or the fourth round against Brook, and after that he pretty much beat Brook up. You know, I think a lot of what Errol Spence did was overlooked with his body attack and stuff like that. But what I'm saying is, neither Errol Spence, even Gennady Golovkin, a guy that's 2 divisions above Kell Brook, who's supposed to be a power puncher, none of them hurt Kell Brook in this fashion with one single punch.
Yeah.
Nobody did. You know what I'm saying? And for Terence Crawford to hurt someone like Kell Brook at this level is highly impressive, because we normally don't see that. So against Terence Crawford, against the likes of Porter, against the likes of Errol Spence, one thing they're going to have to be cautious of, not just his skill, not the fact that he could make adjustments and on the fly. Also, they got to be cautious of his power. He stopped every single opponent at welterweight. Do you know what that means? That means he a power puncher. He a boxer puncher. So when it comes to Porter can't be reckless with Terence Crawford, because Terence could catch him with something and possibly put him out. With Errol Spence, the same thing. Errol Spence got to be cautious with him, because Terence is a counterpuncher. He wants you to come in. He wants you to attack him. See, he knocked out Kell Brook when Kell Brook opened up. As soon as Kell Brook opened up with a right hand and committed, he caught him and it was lights out. So if Porter does the same thing, he will risk getting dropped or knocked out, because now we could see that Terence have power to hurt the best at welterweight, a big welterweight. Like let's not forget, you know, Terence did not break down Kell Brook to the body, didn't knock them out. He just knocked them out. This is some, you know, Gervonta Tank Davis type of power at welterweight. So I think Terrence's power is being overlooked with his skill level, with his defense, because like I said, he was just making adjustments. I don't think he was out of the fight. I think he was just trying to make adjustments, trying to figure out the timing of Kell Brook, you know. So what's your take on that? The fact that nobody ever hurt Kell Brook the way Terence did with one punch.
I mean, you're not right. You're not wrong. like I agree. Like fighters like Sean Porter and Errol Spence, they can get caught coming in, at the wrong time if they fight Terence Crawford. Like I completely agree with that. But the kicker is with Kell Brook. I know he came off of a couple of wins. I'm not, but
yeah, I'm losing you for a second. Yeah, I kind of lost you for a second.
I think it was.
Yeah, can you hear me?
If there was
Hello?
orbital bones on both sides.
Can you hear me?
Of his eyes.
Hey, my man.
So he got his things broken once.
My man, I lost you for a second. I lost you for a second. I can't hardly hear you.
That to me just shows that he didn't want. When he happens, I can't see. I don't know.
Yo, my man, I can hardly hear you. I can hardly hear you. Hello?
Right. That's the difference to me.
What's going on?
Errol Spence, I think.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Hold
on. Yeah, can you hear me? Hello? Oh man.
Well done.
My man talking, but hey, my man, I gotta get you call back, my man, call back, or just call back, because I can hardly hear you. I'm gonna be honest with you, so you're gonna have to call back. But just to respond to you, you gotta have defense to beat Terence. To have a chance against Terence, you gotta have defense. When it comes to just applying pressure, all that, I don't see that working. Like, I think now, looking back at this fight, Porter, his style might work perfectly for Crawford, because Crawford could keep him at bay and try to walk him to something. You have to have nearly ultra instinct defense in order to beat Terence. I think a lot of people don't give Errol Spence credit for his defense. I think Errol Spence has way better defense than people see. A lot of casuals don't see what Errol Spence does. He got great fundamentals. He always keep his hands up. The mistake that Kell Brook made tonight, which it ain't really much of a mistake. I think he probably overcommitted with the right hand. When it comes to Errol Spence, everything is precise. He never lunges. He's always in position. He's always in great balance. So it's harder to counter Errol Spence than it is to counter a guy like, Kell Brook or even a Porter. You know what I'm saying? So a guy like Errol Spence, with his defensive skills, with his offensive output, with his power and speed and the whole package, he will give Terence Crawford a hell of a fight. That's a 50-50 fight. But anybody not named Errol Spence, I have to favor Terence Crawford all day. Because, like I said, you have to have ultra instinct type of defense. You gotta go Goku and ultra instinct in order to avoid Terence Crawford devastating counter punches. Because he could finish you with the counter. And you know what I'm saying? So like that's what I think a lot of people are gonna run into trouble when they do face Errol Spence. But with that being said, go ahead, call me back, my man. It's hard to hear you. I don't know what's going on your end. So call back, hang up and call back, and I'm gonna talk to you in a few. But let's talk about, Shakur came out and he gave his reaction to Bud, in which he said, Bud, he's one of the greats. People don't give him his credit that he deserved. He don't know why, but I'm gonna tell you why, Shakur, because just like you, just like he, just like Floyd, just like Ward, you guys on the coincidental list. So the double standards are real in the sport of boxing. You guys have to do twice, 3 times, 4 times as much. Y'all got to quadruple these fighters on the hope list just to get a fair shake. So obviously Terence don't get his props, his credit, because he's on the coincidental list. Imagine a guy like Terence, who's supposed to be a boxer, that finishes all his opponents at 147, supposedly a division he too small in, and he still don't get his credit. He already moved up 3 weight divisions. He was clearly the best at 135. Nobody wanted to mention his name. At 140, he washed the division. Now at 147, he want to fight everybody and anybody. I mean, how many fighters move up a couple divisions and then be willing to fight anybody in that division? Supposedly or arguably the deepest division in the sport of boxing, welterweight. People complained about Terence. Oh yeah, well 140 wasn't full, blah blah blah. Even though he beat Flex Diaz, Postal, and everybody that was in the ring with him, but they said, oh well, it wasn't a deep division. Now 147 is a deep division, and guess what? Terence Crawford is still keeping that same energy. That's why his nickname is Bud, because he want all the smoke. So Terence, is safe to say, he's already a Hall of Famer for sure. But in order for Terence to be a great, the likes of Porter, the likes of Keith, the likes of Danny, he needs to go to get these guys on his resume, and then obviously the what's going to stamp him as the great fighter he wants to be recognized as. He's going to obviously have to see Errol Spence. That's the fight that will define how great Terence Crawford is, because that Errol Spence smoke is the truth. You know what I'm saying? We know how Errol Spence he come with the smoke, that Texas smoke. So I believe the Errol Spence fight is the fight of the decade that will stamp Terence Crawford as a great fighter in the sport of boxing. I don't know how the fight is going to go. It's a 50-50 fight. It could go either way. Obviously, Terence Crawford did beat Kell Brook in a better fashion. People are going to say, well, Kell Brook at the time, he was a better version. Some people, few people might disagree, because they're going to be like, well, listen, he was also coming off a Gennady Golovkin loss. But nevertheless, Terence had the better performance and the better, knockout victory. But style make fights. Style make fights. And like Errol Spence said, they're going to go in the ring in order to kill each other. I would love to hear what Errol Spence have to say about the KO victory tonight by Terence Crawford. I want to know what Errol Spence's reaction. So if any of you guys saw what Errol Spence had to say, let me know. I'm curious to hear that. But like I said, that's why Bud don't get the credit he deserved, because of the obvious reason. He on the coincidental list, so he obviously got to do that much more to get just enough credit to go by. You know what I mean? Terence Crawford 3-4 years ago, Teddy Atlas was telling him Lomachenko, who was 8-1 at the time, who just avoided a Salido fight at the time, is pound for pound number one. And he told both Andre Ward and Terence Crawford, Terence Crawford, he just became undisputed at 140 in a knockout fashion. Andre Ward knocked out pound for pound number 2 at the time, Kovalev. He's a gold medalist, haven't lost a fight since 14 years old. He told both of them, you guys aren't competing with each other. You guys are competing with Lomachenko. That's why they don't get their credit, man, because they put Gennady Golovkin on the best 25 greatest fighters of the past 25 years. When he haven't did anything at the time, when he just avoided Andre Ward at the time, when Andre Ward called him Little G, when he was avoiding Lara, now he avoiding Charlo and Andre. Jim Lampley came out and said, listen, Gennady Golovkin, his career is a failure. And Jim Lampley was his biggest supporter. Jim Lampley said if Gennady Golovkin loses to Canelo in a rematch, his career is a failure. Max Kellerman said the guy who was hyping up Gennady Golovkin, now he's saying Gennady Golovkin was nothing but a hype job. Deryachenko beat him, right? They overhyped them guys. They overpraised them before they even proved themselves. They erased Lomachenko lost, just to show you what kind of double standards we're dealing with. And that's why Terence never got his just due, because people always get caught up with these narratives that old media keep painting. How you doing, Aki? Who this is and where you calling from? Hello? Hello? Oh, hold on. Yeah, we can connect. Hello? Hello? My man went to sleep. My man went to sleep. Hello? Man, don't go to sleep on me now. I'm gonna pick up your call later, man. I mean, I know it's supposed to be working now. No, it ain't on my end. Hello? Hello? Can you hear me? Well, I'm gonna try to pick up somebody else. And Eve said, "Is Crawford number one pound for pound?" Without a doubt. He dominated every single opponent he'd been in the ring with. He moved up 3 weight divisions, washed every single name he fought. He won by knockout victory in the welterweight division. His last 6 fights, I believe, or 4 fights, or 5 fights, or how I don't know how many fights. He won all of them by KO. And he's supposed to be a boxer, so he obviously pound for pound number one in my books, all day, every day. That's why Floyd Mayweather said that Terence Crawford is a better fighter than Lomachenko. He said Lomachenko is not better than Crawford, not in a million years. Just to show you, even Floyd Mayweather, the GOAT, TBE, he sees Bud Crawford as pound for pound number one without a question. And Floyd don't have to be biased toward Terence Crawford because Terence is not even signed with him. He's just giving you his honest take. Hello? Hello? Hold on. I don't know what's going on. Let me go pick up another call of this. Hello?
Hello. AKHi, how you doing?
All right, I'm doing good. Yeah. So for the people that called in earlier, I guess it's on your end because I could hear you. So I'm pretty sure there's technical issues on their end. So with that being said,
all right, well that's awesome.
Yeah. So what's going on? Talk to me.
I have one thing I want to talk to you about, man. In this new era of post-pandemic boxing, I want your take on what you think the biggest, well, let's just call it the most controversial thing has been. Has it been the Rolly Romero versus Jackson Arenas fight, or was it today's Josh Franco versus Andrew Maloney fight?
Yeah, no, I think Maloney, man. I think Maloney because
Really,
I really didn't. Did you see a headbutt?
I did not. No,
Yeah,
I didn't see a headbutt at
I
all.
don't know what's going on. Like, how can you say? I don't know when he ruled it. To be honest with you, that was due to a headbutt. But how can you say it was due to a headbutt when there was no headbutt at all? They played nearly the whole fight back. They replayed the whole fight to see where he headbutted his opponent, and they couldn't find no headbutt. It was clearly the jab. You could clearly see him sticking him with a jab, and obviously his eyes started swelling. So it's like, what are they even talking about? They replayed the whole fight and they still, didn't give Maloney his win, which that was shocking to see because Bob, he fussed the crap out of them. Bob was over there fussing.
Yeah.
But Bob said, "I'm moving out of Vegas." And for Bob to say things like that, that's not good for business. When you trash, Vegas and stuff like that, you're supposed to be a promoter. That's not good for you at the end of the day. But Bob is saying that because that just show you how pissed off he was. He was telling like, okay, well, like what headbutt you guys talking about? Can you point it out? So I didn't see it. So if somebody could show me, I would love to see it. But all I saw was jabs that caused the eye to swell. And like I said, this is already a dangerous sport. This is a dangerous sport where fighters, put their life on the line. They risk everything. And Maloney trained for 5 months. And like, it was heartbreaking to see him get robbed like that. I mean, he'll win it in my book anyway.
Yeah.
He'll win it in my book. Martinez want the fight in my book too, But one thing for sure, it will still affect their next payday is what I'm saying. Regardless if we felt like, oh, he'll win it in my book, he'll win it in his book, it still affect his next payday because in the sport of boxing, when you lose a fight, your next payday is not the same. So I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know what was the deal with that. So what's your take?
Well, my take is pretty similar to yours. I mean, I saw the Marinez fight, the Marinez Rolly Romero fight, also was very controversial. I had it going for Jackson, but this one here, to me, was blatant. It was a clear-cut decision. They had more than enough time in the reviews. The review system itself needs to be brought in question, obviously,
right?
Because there's no way you can have two officials looking at that for that long and make up a headbutt that most of the people that I've spoken with today who saw this fight didn't see. So, I mean, it's just sad. This is the kind of thing that really gives boxing well, not really a bad name, but it's a blemish on the way things are going, especially now in this post-pandemic time. Maloney took this fight 5 months immediately after, immediate rematch. After the first fight, he was clearly bested. He went back to the drawing board, you could tell, and he worked on what he saw the weaknesses. And you know what the weakness was that right jab that hit him over and over repeatedly with no mercy on that eye that caused that swelling. And to have that, let's say he figured that puzzle out, and to have that completely be nullified, completely negated by terrible officiating that is even backed by a replay system that is itself flawed.
Yeah.
I just think it's a horrible thing to happen. I feel horribly bad for him. I feel that the Jackson Martinez, at least he got his rounds all the way in. The decision didn't go his way. I saw it clearly the other way. That's fine. But to have the match stopped, because I even heard, Tim Bradley and Andre Ward say that that's a fight that could have gone a couple more rounds. There could have been more progress to that fight, And maybe, I can't predict the future. I don't know what would have happened in those other rounds that they would have given him. But I feel, things weren't going Josh Franco's way. And side note, it's interesting how Jackson Martinez got, well, I don't want to say the word robbed, but he got unfavorable decision in the fight against Rolly Romero. And now Joshua Franco kind of gets, who's also a Robert Garcia fighter, gets it the other way around. I mean, that's an interesting side note. Really has no weight here or there. But that's how I see it, man. This decision, especially being backed by instant replay, something that they're trying to bring in, something that they're, I would say is still experimental, especially in this pandemic phase of boxing, all these bubbles and all this other stuff. It's got to have some weight to it.
Yeah, but what's the purpose of it?
I mean, that's just my take on it.
Well, what's the purpose of it if they're going to replay the whole fight and not see a headbutt? However, they still go on with the old decision that the referee made, which was the mistake of the headbutt that wasn't there. What's the purpose of a replay? If you're going to go back and watch the replay and not correct the mistake, what's the purpose of the replay? They wasted our time. We was waiting for them to, see the right decision and the right call, and they just wasted our time by, replaying it and not doing anything about it. I'm pretty sure, like they saw the fact that they couldn't find a headbutt. So I don't understand what was all that about. Like I don't understand, because it ain't like his opponent was like a huge A-side and a popular fighter that the world know that they wanted to win. It's not that case, and just to bring to bring up, like you said in the first fight, I'll be honest with you, I didn't even catch the first fight, but Maloney said he felt like he was sick. And, normally when you hear that, you like, he making excuses. That's the first initial instinct when you hear a fighter say, oh yeah, I was sick. But he did say, hey, listen, I almost threw up after the fight, but he wasn't talking about because he was getting hit. He said, like, I don't know what it was.
I remember that.
Yeah, but he showed us tonight that, hey, I'm the better man. That was just an off night for me.
Yeah.
And he proved it. For a guy to train for 5 months, man, you know how long that's a half a year. For 5 months, fighters train for 2 months.
After being bested.
Yeah, you train for 5 months, work your ass off just to get robbed, not by the judges. They always show us new things in the sport of boxing. Nah, by the referee. Like you said, the fight could have went on a little bit more. You know what I mean? So that was definitely a bad call, and hopefully they do something about it. They have to do something about that call, because that puts a blackout on the sport of boxing. Yeah, Terence had a tremendous victory, a KO victory that had us all jumping. But the co-main event put a bad taste in my mouth, and I'm pretty sure a lot of casuals feel the same way. Like, they're gonna watch the fight and be like, "Oh man, what the hell? What kind of sport is this?"
I can tell you firsthand. People were talking about that into the first couple of rounds. Not that they went the distance, but at the beginning, people were still talking about that decision. People were still talking about the the way the instant replay worked out. So I mean, I understand exactly what you're saying. It did kind of. I'm not that it spoiled anything or it even soiled anything, but it was definitely in it was definitely reminiscing in people's minds what had just happened into the main event. You're absolutely right.
Right. And let me ask you this question. I really want to get your take on this. Kell
Sure.
Brook, he was asked after the fight. They asked him the
Mhm.
$1 million question. You fought both guys, Errol Spence and Terence Crawford. Who you think is the better fighter, and who you think is going to win the fight of the decade?
Mhm.
Kell Brook responded by saying, "Listen, man, I've been in the ring with both guys, but I really can't tell because style make fights. You know, Porter and Errol Spence have two completely different styles. You know, they both great. So he said he really can't call it. You know, and obviously,
Yeah.
I agree with Kell Brook 100% because truth be told, we don't know what kind of version we saw tonight. I really think it was a great version. I won't say his best version, the best version of Kell Brook. I still believe the best version of Kell Brook is the one that fought Porter, obviously. But
That's right. Yeah.
I just believe that he was a good version of himself because he said he felt like he was in the best prime shape of his life, and he's 34. Crawford 33 is only a one year age gap. You know what I mean? But my question to you is,
Yeah.
based on Errol Spence versus Kell Brook and his performance, and based on Terence Crawford versus Kell Brook, who do you favor in that fight and why? And can you make the call right now after seeing both Terence and Errol Spence in the ring with a guy like Kell Brook, since they got a common opponent?
Yeah. Well, let me answer you this way. I know that the Errol Spence that will meet Bud in that fight has to be different because of the accident. Now, and questions will be answered at the end of his Garcia fight. If he can convincingly beat Danny Garcia in a way no one else has, I'm talking a stoppage, then there's no reason to doubt. I would then favor Errol Spence. Today, without those questions being answered, and with the performances that have been put up by Terence Crawford, I have to go with Bud all the way.
All right,
but like I said,
let me ask you this. Let
Yeah.
me ask you the question this way. Then let me ask you this question this way.
Okay.
Assuming Errol Spence is the same Errol Spence before the car accident. Let's say he comes back and now he's even more dedicated and more focused. But let's say that the accident it don't cause, it's not affecting him. That version of Errol Spence version versus the version we saw tonight against Kell Brook, that fought Kell Brook tonight, Terence. Who you win? You still picking Errol or you favor Terence?
At that point, I would have to favor Errol Spence.
And why is that?
Because I think Errol Spence is a lot more methodical. Now, the stuff that was said after, I don't know if it's facts or not, that Terence Crawford goes into these fights without a game plan. It's kind of hard for me to believe for someone to be at this level for so long, someone who wiped out divisions in 30, 35, 40, and now at 47 and continuing that same path. I find it kind of hard to believe that he goes in there with no game plan. It could be. I don't know. I'm not him. I cannot speak, but I think Errol Spence is a lot more methodical, especially after he handled Mikey Garcia in the way that he handled Mikey Garcia. See, that fight was something that Mikey Garcia was asking for, something that he was super confident about. And I know how methodical he is and has been in his career. And for him to be bested by Errol Spence in the way he did, because that fight, everybody expected Errol Spence to use size and power over Garcia, and he didn't. He outboxed him. He outclassed him. Now, to the point where his father and his brother, who are legends, were trying to stop that fight, although he was not hurt, because they saw how futile Mikey Garcia's efforts were with the Errol Spence at his prime. So because of that, and other fights he's had, of course, I mean, Errol Spence's resume speaks for itself. Anything that I could say could not add or take away. But because of these things, that's why I would favor Errol Spence. And if we have the Errol Spence of old.
Right. That's great points. Great points. Now, before I give my take on it, I just want to play devil advocate real quick with you because that was a great answer. So obviously brought up Mikey Garcia, and I was highly impressed by
Mhm.
Errol Spence boxing skills in that fight. However, one thing that Terence has on his arsenal that Mikey doesn't have is power with speed. I think it's fair to say that Terence is the faster out of the two, and I'm even talking about Errol. I think
Mhm.
Terence have better hand speed. He gets from point A to point B. He got faster hands. Now
Okay.
having that in mind, you don't think speed plays a big role in a fight like that?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Speed plays a really big role. But if you look at Errol Spence in his fights, you know that his timing is also up to par. And we all know that timing kills speed, just like power is killed by
Right.
speed. You know what I mean?
And
So
Brooke
there's a
displayed that.
different side to each coin there.
Yeah, it's a great point because Brooke displayed that early on. Obviously, Terence was still making
Mm-hmm.
adjustments, but Brooke displayed that he was disrupting Terence with his timing. Especially that jab. One thing Errol Spence.
Oh yeah.
One advantage Errol Spence has on his side is that he's a southpaw. We haven't really seen
Mm-hmm.
Terence fight someone at this level that's a southpaw because see, I'm telling you
No.
right now, Terence really frustrates a lot of his opponents when he switched southpaw.
Mm-hmm.
When he switched southpaw, that's a puzzle that's very hard to solve for a lot of fighters. And Kell Brook, you saw him kind of fold as soon as Terence switched southpaw on him. But with Errol Spence, because remember, Kell Brook tonight, he was catching Terence with the jab. And Gamboa had
Mm-hmm.
success against Terence with the same in kind of the
As
same
well.
fashion.
Yeah.
Yep. So it wasn't until Terence switched southpaw, he takes a lot of his opponent's attributes. He takes his opponent's best attributes away right away. So when it comes to Earl, he's a southpaw. So even if Terence switched southpaw, that jab will still be effective. And this is my humble opinion. I think Terence fights better off the southpaw position than he does off the orthodox position. I think he could fight off the orthodox position. Don't get me wrong, but I think his P's and Q's is his southpaw position. We've seen him in the sport of boxing fight off the southpaw position. I could say 70% of the time, at least. So the fact that Errol Spence is a southpaw, that's gonna give Bud a puzzle that he have to really solve from both stands, So that will be interesting to see, especially with Errol Spence timing, like you said. Also, on top of all of that, Errol has great defense that a lot of people don't give him credit for. With the Mikey Garcia fight, Mikey is a counterpuncher, but he couldn't find Errol Spence because he varies his offense. More importantly, after he throws any punch, he's always he put himself in a safe position. I don't care if he leans on his opponent. It don't matter what Earl does. He always in a safe position, and he's offensive while he's doing it. So, I mean, I'm intrigued to see how the fight going to play out with Terence because obviously Terence is a great body puncher. Terence is a great counter puncher to the body. Errol Spence is the best body puncher in the game, period. So just the attributes, they have too much attributes. You know what I'm saying? That's why this fight, you really don't know who to pick. It's a 50-50 fight. I say this, it's going to be the fight of the decade for sure. But yeah, any last thoughts on that before I let you go?
Yeah, my last thought on that is this. Like you mentioned, Gamboa had success early. Kell Brook had success early. My thing is if Earl has success that early, we know that he also has that killer instinct that maybe these guys lack. Gamboa, you've seen him gas out time and time again. So maybe he had a good start, gassed out. Kell Brook, there was a long period of time. He also has his problems. Had a really good start, got caught. That was the end of the fight there. Now, will Errol have enough early to end it while, Bud is still trying to figure him out? That's going to be the big deciding factor in that fight because we know that the talent levels are both there. We know the power is both there. We know where their skills and their attributes and everything has brought them to where they are. Now, the difference will be who executes it better and at what point in the fight. If Errol makes it an early night and Bud hasn't figured it out, well, then that'll be a slow night. It'll be a clear, decisive victory that way. Now, vice versa. If maybe Earl doesn't, get going and Bud figures him out, then that'll be that. But it's really going to be a toss-up fight. And that, that's the best things you can get in boxing. I don't like to watch a fight where I'm expecting someone to win. Right. I much rather be surprised by the skill, by the sport, by the art, by the sweet science of boxing,
Especially by two elite fighters.
I mean, I think...
Yeah, especially by two elite fighters. Yeah. And to follow up by the points you brought up, I'll be honest with you, leading up to the fight, when it came to Terence versus Kell Brook, a lot of people felt like if Errol Spence is still the same, if Errol does fight a Terence, if it goes to the scorecard, they felt like, listen, Terence going to win it. He got more skills and he got a better IQ. And when it came to Earl, the popular opinion is that Earl's going to win by KO. However, I really don't see it that way. I could see Earl winning in if it goes to a decision, if it goes 12 rounds, I could see Errol Spence winning a decision because he got the work rate.
Oh, most definitely.
He got the stamina.
Yeah.
He got the output to outpunch Terence. He could punish him on the rope, so on and so forth. So I could actually see Errol Spence winning by decision. However, like I said, the popular opinion is that Errol Spence could win by KO. I could also see Terence Crawford winning by KO because, like a lot of guys, a lot of guys you brought up earlier, like Gamboa, Kell Brook. Now Gamboa, obviously, he got hurt. I don't know if he started gassing out. I think the body work that Terence was investing, pretty much broke Gamboa down because Gamboa have a high work rate as well. And when it came to Kell Brook, it was only the 4th round. So it was actually Terence power that got the job done. He's one of the hardest punchers in the game. And he could definitely hurt Errol Spence as well. But the only thing that separates Errol is that he have a great chin. On top of having a great chin, the best chin in boxing is the one that don't get hit. And Errol Spence, he got really good defense. Even when he throws punches offensively, he's very calculated with his defense. And he always put himself in a great position. So like I said, you have to have ultra instinct defense to avoid Terence for 12 rounds because of his speed and power. And I really think Earl is that guy. If there's anybody that could beat Terence, it will definitely be Errol Spence. With that being said, just give me your last couple thoughts. And I got a lot of callers, so we'll go ahead and pick up.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, just man, thanks for all the stuff, man. I really enjoy your channel. I really enjoy all your stuff, man. Big fan, AKHi. And, just shout out to you, man.
I appreciate it, my brother. Thank you,
for taking the call.
Yes, sir. That was a great take. Take care, my brother. How you doing, AKHi? Who this is and where you calling from? Hello? Hello? I don't know what's going on. Oh, man. Call back because, like I said, I don't know why I can't hear you. Hello? I don't know what's going on. How you doing, AKHi? Who this is and where you calling from?
Yeah, it's Rob, man. Calling from Ohio.
Ohio, Rob. Now, can I dive in with you to the next? Well, let me throw this at you, and you can give me your take. All right.
Yeah.
Devin Haney obviously gave his reaction to Terence Crawford, in which he said Terence a fucking dog. Crawford finished people in street fight mode, pound for pound. Now, how would you say? Obviously, we know Terence is pound for pound number one, but is he one of the hardest punchers in the lower weight divisions? Is he up there with Gervonta, so on and so forth?
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
I don't think he proved anything tonight. I think that the only reason why he was able to do what he did is because the weight drain actually affected Brook. The only time somebody get hurt like that by a jab is unless they're either going up in weight and not used to the weight, or that they're going down that way. I wasn't impressed with what I seen. I wasn't impressed with nothing I seen tonight. I thought that Spence I thought the only thing I seen him do was switch southpaw. I didn't see Brook being bothered by what he did. Only thing I seen was Brook. I believe if Brook could have handled the punches, I believe Brook could have won that fight. Could have won. I had Brook winning all the rounds too as well.
Yeah, he could have won the fight.
Only fourth round I didn't have a winner was the fourth round.
But he got stopped in the fourth round. But like I said, when it comes to Kell Brook, when you're gonna be like a lot of people feel like, hey, we don't know if this is the best version of Kell Brook. We could say that, but when it came to the man himself, Kell Brook, he knows how he feels better than we do. We're not in his body. He is. He told us that he never had an easier time making weight because he worked on making weight for this fight for like the past couple months. He'd been working on making weight. He'd been training in order to make weight and fight Crawford. So according to Brook, he said he was in the best shape of his life. You know, this ain't according to me. This is according to him. So I don't think he will lie about that. Like I truly believe if he struggled to make the weight, like you said, he would have said, "Listen, man, it was a struggle to make the weight." I mean, that's what he was saying with Earl Spence. But when it came to Terence, he was saying, "Listen, man, I'm fine." And then Crawford was like, "Yo, I'm taking those down. Don't make excuses after the fight." And even after the fight, Kell Brook also kept the same energy. He said, "Listen, it was just that I got caught by a punch that I didn't see coming." Look, usually in the sport of boxing, the punch that hurt the most is the one you don't see coming. I truly believe Kell Brook was in great shape.
I agree.
I just think he got caught with a punch that he didn't see. However, to hurt him in that fashion, that power is real. That power is real. Trust me, because he stopped every single opponent at welterweight.
I don't agree, man. But I would say this, like, I don't think that he had a hard time making a weight.
Besides Gervonta, who you think is a devastating puncher?
Who I think is a devastating puncher? Tank.
Yeah, besides Tank.
Charlo, Jamal Charlo, the Charlos.
Yeah, all right.
I think
Tank.
Canelo can be. I think that Canelo.
All right. Well, let's talk about
I think
Canelo.
Canelo can be a devastating punch depending on the weight class. If he at 160.
Yeah, well, Canelo, for example. I mean, beside Kovalev, you know what I'm saying, when he did that stanky leg, and who was the last opponent he really knocked out?
I mean, you know, he knocked out. Who he knocked out? The devastating punch, the devastating round, he knocked out people at 154. Yeah. Like this is my thing. I get you, but
154, he was a bully in that division. And Amir Khan, obviously, he didn't have a chin, and he moved up a couple divisions. But Canelo, I mean, remember, Terence, this is his third weight division, and he stopped every single opponent. Jeff Horn, he washed Jeff Horn. He stopped him, bullied him. And Pacquiao, he had trouble with Jeff Horn. Pacquiao couldn't. Pacquiao got power? Pacquiao got power, right?
Jeff Horn ain't no top of the line fighter.
Though. But Pacquiao,
Manny Pacquiao is not a real. His styles make fights though. Manny Pacquiao is not no true 147 pounder.
But doesn't he have power?
Manny Pacquiao has problems with Manny Pacquiao. Reason why Manny Pacquiao had problems with Horn is because Manny Pacquiao is smaller than Horn. And Horn was able to bully him around. Manny Pacquiao don't like to fight people that bully.
That's my
point. He don't like to fight people like that.
That's my point. Terence, that was his first division moving up. That was his first fight moving up to 147. And he washed him. But Pacquiao, one thing about Pacquiao,
Horn is not a top of the line fighter.
Yeah, but Pacquiao,
Horn is not a top of the line fighter.
We could agree. Pacquiao, small or big, at 147, he got power. He dropped Keith Thurman. He hurt Broner. He hurt Jeff Horn. And he couldn't stop Jeff Horn, though, is my point. Terence washed him. You brought up Canelo, right? You said Canelo the last time you remember him having power is at 154. But at 160, he really don't. I mean, he didn't stop Jacob. He didn't stop a lot of his opponents unless they Rocky Fieldings, unless they cherry picks. At this level, it's hard to get a KO at this level. Like Kell Brook is one of the best. He got a chin. He proven.
I can tell you,
and to knock him out,
I can tell you right now.
Yeah, but I'm trying to prove a point to you that Canelo, you pick Canelo, and Canelo really haven't stopped nobody of late. You know, Gervonta got devastating power. Gervonta, he stopped Leo Santa Cruz, but Leo Santa Cruz was the smaller guy. Kell Brook was the bigger guy, and Terrence watched him.
I can tell you right now, and I will take all bets on this when this happens. Terence Crawford is not stopping none of the top. Terence Crawford will not stop not one welterweight, not one top welterweight at PBC. He's not stopping Danny Garcia. He's not stopping Spence, and he's not stopping Porter. He's not going to stop none of them. They're all going 12 rounds if he ever fights. If he ever fight any of them. Ugas, he might be able to stop him because I think Ugas is stopped. I don't think you don't think Ugas is the top fighter? Yeah, I think he's a top fighter. I think that's the type of fighter he can stop. But Porter, Danny Garcia, Spence, he's not stopping none of them. They're all going 12 rounds if he fight any of them.
I mean, that's no telling.
All those fights are going 12 rounds.
We shall see. I mean, those are, you know, you talking about the best of the best now. You know, you talking about
I'll tell you right now.
You talking about the best of the best though. If he could stop those guys,
Kell Brook is washed up, bro. Kell Brook is washed, bro.
That's
this
easy
fight
to
clearly
say.
showed that Kell Brook is a washed fighter,
Kell
bro.
Brook looked good. Kell Brook looked good in the first. You said it yourself. In the first 3 rounds,
he looked good until he looked good until he got hit with a solid shot. What
I say? Mike Tyson always say, listen, everybody got a game plan till they get hit. Guess why Mike said that? Because Mike got devastating knockout punch. Terrence got devastating knockout punch.
This is the thing. Kell Brook said that the weight didn't affect him and all that. Of course he's gonna say that to sell the fight. But then on top, of course he's gonna say that to sell the fight and try to make it seem like he's back because he really wants the public to think that he's back. But he's really not back. And this fight clearly showed it.
Why is he selling the fight after the fact? After the fight, he said that they asked him what.
No, because he can't make it. Because he can't make an excuse. Because he can't make an excuse because he claims that there wouldn't be no excuses. Well, so when they asked him after the fight, he had no choice.
Name me any fighter that had the devastating win by a knockout or TKO the way Terrence did against Kell Brook, against the name, a guy in their own division, a big fighter. When the last time? Just name me any fighter.
Spence fought the better version of Brook, bro.
Yeah,
Spence fought the better version of Brook.
Answer the question.
Just like Floyd.
Yeah, but I want you to answer my question. I said, you know, since you feel like Terrence don't got power like that, name me any fighter in boxing.
I do think Terrence got power, but I don't think that this proved that he had power. I don't think that this proved his power was great. Because I think that Brook was great, man.
Have Jeff Horn ever been?
But he didn't fight nobody. He hasn't fought nobody at 147. He hasn't fought nobody. Everybody he stopped. There was nobody. They wasn't impressed.
Kell Brook is a somebody now. Let's not play Kell Brook as a
Kell
nobody.
Kell Brook was a somebody at some point at 147. This fight clearly showed that he's not nobody.
Why is that? Why is that? Why you feel like why is that?
No business.
Why
because
he won his last 3 fights. And his last fight he won it by.
But they was at 154 where he had moved up because he was having a hard time making 147. So when he decided to come back down to 147, he's affected by that weight. He has no business at that weight class.
So at 154, you feel like you telling me if Terrence fought him at 154, it would have been a different outcome.
Yes, I think it would be a lot different. Yeah.
Man, I'm telling you,
Terrence because he's draining himself. He's weakening himself to fight. He's weakening himself to fight at 147.
You're not giving.
I'll give credit. I swear. I put this on everything. I'll give credit.
I'll give credit when credit is due. You're taking credit away.
I will say this. I just want to say this, and I don't want to hold you up. Spence is going to beat Brook, man. And when that fight, I mean, he gonna beat Crawford, and it's not going to be hard. When that fight happens, I guarantee you, I will take all bets. Spence beats Crawford, bro. He beats you. I guarantee you, and it ain't going to be hard.
Well,
it ain't going to be hard. It's not going to be hard at all.
Let me tell you this. Errol Spence disagrees with you.
Spence is going to beat the shit out of it.
Well, Errol Spence disagrees with you because Errol Spence said, once I fight Terrence, we're going to go in the ring to try to kill each other. He knows he's going to be in a real fight. So I really don't see nobody watching Terrence. Even Errol Spence.
He know he going.
Yeah, so what I'm saying to you,
go into a fight.
What I'm saying to you,
that's his biggest shot. He feel like
but what you're doing right now, you really discrediting Terrence though. And when Errol Spence fight Terrence, it's not going to be that big of a win because you discrediting Terrence. Think about it this way: if you hold on, let me get my point across, bro. Let me talk. So when Errol Spence fought when Errol Spence fought Kell Brook,
I'm letting you talk.
yeah,
man.
but listen, when Errol Spence fought Kell Brook, I mean, not me, but a lot of people could have did the same thing to Errol Spence. Oh, you fought Errol Spence. I mean, you fought Kell Brook after moving up and losing to Gennady Golovkin, messing up his eye, and then moving back down. You fought him after a loss. He moved up 2 weight divisions. He struggled to make the weight. You bringing up the same excuses Kell Brook fans was making
That's
up
not the same.
How's it not the same? How's it not the same when Kell Brook moved up 2 weight divisions?
Not the same comparison because Kell Brook had not fought. Kell Brook has not been at 147 for almost 3 years, bro. Kell Brook had been at 147 just like 9 months.
Didn't Errol Spence fight Kell Brook coming off a loss, moving up 2 weight divisions, fighting Gennady Golovkin, then moving back down, in which Kell Brook claimed he struggled to make the weight?
Listen, this is no different. This would be no different than motherfucking Floyd fighting at 154 and going back down to 147.
No, he moved up 2 weight divisions. That's the difference. No, that's not the same. That's not the same. Floyd moved up to 154 and didn't even make 154 on the scale. Kell Brook was 180 a month before the fight with Gennady Golovkin, then moved back to one, and then he made the weight at 160 solid. He was like 180 the fight night. And I'm talking about solid muscle. He had to move up 2 weight divisions and then move back down to 147, in which he claimed he struggled to make the weight. So if you're going to make excuses claiming that, Kell Brook was washed, he struggled to make the weight, people did the same thing, and they said the same thing about Errol Spence when he fought Kell Brook. So when
Spence fought Kell Brook,
by you discrediting, but by you discrediting, I give Errol Spence his props for beating Kell Brook all day. But I also give Terence his props for beating Kell Brook. You got to give credit where credit is due. And one thing for sure, you haven't answered my question. Name me any fighter that got a victory by spectacular fashion at this level against a name opponent in their own division. Just name me any fighter.
What is so impressive about that? He would get knocked out by
all right.
Mikey Garcia would knock him out.
But you ain't answering the question. What? Man, answer the question, man. I said the question is simple. You said you felt like Terence Crawford, he's not that good. He don't got power. His power ain't real. He ain't been tested. Name me any fighter at any weight that got a knockout victory in a spectacular fashion like Terence Crawford did tonight against the name opponent. Any fighter. It don't got to be any weight class. I don't care what weight class.
Buzz career.
But you're not answering the question. See, you deflecting. You're not answering the question. I want you to answer my question.
I'm not deflecting, bro.
Okay, answer the question.
You're not letting me talk, bro.
Okay, answer the question.
You wouldn't even let me finish off.
Answer the question.
Stuff I'm saying,
answer the question.
You wouldn't even let me finish.
I'll let you finish once you answer the question. Answer the question.
Ain't nobody knocked out no weight drain Brook.
Answer the question. Answer the question. Answer the question.
Answer what question?
Name me any fighter. Name me any fighter in any division that had a spectacular KO against a top name opponent in their own division.
Gervonta Davis just knocked out Leo Santa Cruz.
Leo Santa Cruz moved up 2 divisions. When people say Leo Santa Cruz is a smaller guy, I'm talking about a guy in his own division, a guy that's a real 147 pounder like Kell Brook was. Leo Santa Cruz is not a true 130 pounder. So name me a guy.
Leo Santa Cruz is already at 130, and neither is Brook.
No, Brook
man,
Brook looked 2 weight divisions above Terence tonight.
Brook has no business at 147.
Name me. I told you, and you haven't answered the question. Name me just one fighter that fought a guy in his own division. Not a guy moving up in a division or 2. A guy that's a solid fighter in his own division, a name opponent. Name me any fighter that knocked his opponent out in a devastating fashion. Any fighter.
You fail to realize that Brook moved up in weight classes, bro. It came back down.
Okay,
That's what you fail to realize.
Are you not going to answer the question? Because I got to let you go if you ain't going to answer the question. Are you not going to answer the question? You don't got the answer, Sway.
You're not asking me that.
I asked you a question. Just name me any fighter that had a spectacular KO against the name opponent.
Remember I'll tell you this. Put your money up and remember my name.
You ain't answer the question. You got to go because you got the answer, Sway. You ain't got the answers? Copper says Spence fans equal Trump fans equal delusional. That's all I'm saying, man. Like, you know, at the end of the day, you got to give credit where credit is due, because if you're going to discredit Terence, you're going to discredit. I mean, if you're going to discredit Terence for beating Kell Brook the way he did, by winning in a spectacular fashion against the Kell Brook that looked good tonight, then you could do the same thing to Errol Spence, because he fought a Kell Brook that moved down from 2 divisions when he lost to Gennady Golovkin, coming off a loss. At least Kell Brook, I mean, Terence Crawford fighting Kell Brook coming off a win. I still feel like that version of Kell Brook that fought Errol Spence is the better version. But my point is, if you discredit Terence, I want you to discredit Errol Spence as well. You got to keep the same energy. You can't contradict yourself. That's why he couldn't name me one opponent. They said Leo Santa Cruz, but Leo Santa Cruz was a 130-pounder. He got an iron chin. That was the knockout of the year. But Leo Santa Cruz wasn't like a Pritchett, for example, a guy like a natural 130-pounder. Kell Brook is a natural 147-pounder. And he said he made the weight no problem. He in the prime shape of his life. So I ain't trying to hear nobody taking credit away from Terence. Because, like I said, if you're going to take credit away from Terence, you're also going to take credit away from Errol Spence for his performance against, Kell Brook. How you doing, Aki? Who this is, and where you calling from? Hello? Man, 971. I can't hear you, man. I don't know what's going on with your phone number, but I don't know, you might want to call back. I think my man fell asleep. I really think my man fell asleep, so I'm going to let him go. I think my man fell asleep. Hello, how you doing, Aki? Who this is, or where you calling from? Hello? Can you hear me? Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah. What's going on?
Doing great, man. So hold on, give me a second. Now, Sean Porter came out and said that, during the fight, he was giving his take on the fight, and he said that the first round, he gave it to Brook. Good, strong jab. He said, I'm loving the chess match so far. Second round for Brook. He also gave the third round for Brook. He said Brook is controlling the distance and timing of the fight with the jab and switching. And obviously, when Terence Crawford got the KO, he said game time. So just curious, how do you see a Porter versus Terence Crawford fight after witnessing Terence Crawford knock out Kell Brook? But before you do so, let me just read the super chat real quick. Muslim lover of peace. Salaam alaikum. Alaikum assalam, my brother. Who's your favorite MMA fighter? Habib all day. Habib, he obviously retired. So right now, I say Israel. But if Habib come back, I got Habib all day, my brother. But yeah, so obviously Porter got a different style make fights. And, Kell Brook, he beat, Porter in a convincing fashion. So how do you see a Terence versus Porter? Because Terence, he made it clear, and his team made it clear on my show that, listen, if Porter presses the issue and activates his mandatory position, then he could get it. He would have smoked. So what's your take on that fight, and how do you see that fight stylistically after witnessing Kell Brook performance?
I think that would be a great matchup, actually, because Porter's style is really in the inside, and he always come forward. And I've yet to see Terence Crawford in a fight an opponent that's steady coming forward and fight on the inside. He has the ability to counter punch, and he got that knockout ability. A lot of people discredit Terence Crawford's power, but it's there. But that would be a great fight, and I know majority of people would say Terence Crawford would win that easily, but I don't know. To me, I see it a little like 60-40 Terence way, but I wouldn't count out Porter.
Yeah. Now, I see that fight differently. I think if, obviously I see Terence boxing Porter all day. And since he got the longer reach, I could see him keeping him at bay. Now, obviously, Porter, he knows how to get in the inside and make it a dog fight. But what, like for example, tonight, Terence revealed that he was just waiting on Kell Brook to commit and come in. And Porter will give him a lot of great opportunities. With the devastating power Terence has and how accurate he is with his speed, I really see him countering Porter all day to the body and to the head. So I really see Terence, winning that fight. But it's definitely going to be a fight if Porter could take Terence punches. If Porter could walk through Terence punches and eat them all day, which I don't know if anybody really could just eat flush shots all day by Terence Crawford and walk through them. If he could take his power without no problem coming in, because remember, for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction, and when you coming in, just like Brook did tonight, when you get countered, the power multiplies. It's more devastating. So I just felt like Porter will give Terence a lot of opportunities, but stylistically, I think Porter will give Terence problems if he could take his punch.
See, this what I was saying. Porter, he comes forward. If he don't get in close, he can't really be effective. So that's his game plan in all his fights. So he got to get up close on you, and he get hit, but he comes right back. I've yet to see, like when Earl Spence and Porter had a fight. I give Earl Spence his credit. I don't think he should have fought that type of fight, but he fought Sean Porter's fight in the inside. I want to see how Bud will react to that type of fight, because matchups do make fights. So I would want to see how Terence Crawford reacts to Sean Porter dog fighting and just getting in there and staying close to him. How would he react to that? If he don't give Bud the opportunity to stay back and pick him apart and just counter punch him. Right. How would Bud react to Crawford? I mean, to Sean Porter just in his face constantly.
Yeah, and I'm with you on that.
That'd be a good fight.
Right, I'm with you on that one, because even Errol Spence, he said that if he ever fight Porter again in a rematch, he said he won't make the same mistake he made the first fight. He said he's gonna box Porter the second time around because he made the fight tougher on himself by fighting Porter fight. But we already knew that leading up to the fight, Errol Spence was telling Porter, "Hey, listen, I'm more of a dog than you," and he showed that tonight. I mean, he showed it fight night, because he fought Porter in his own game in the inside and beat him at his own game, which just show you how special Errol Spence is. But on the other hand, Terence, I really don't see Terence making that mistake. I really think Terence is going to fight his fight and just box, move around, use angles, and tie up Porter in the inside after countering him to the body. I think that's how Porter. I think that's how Terence will pursue the Porter fight. But if Porter could make it a dog fight, that will obviously be that will be highly intriguing. So I would love to see the fight. But I gotta get your take on this, because Bob said that Bud next fight is most likely going to be Manny Pacquiao. That's what Terence Crawford wants. That's what Bob Arum wants. He said the fight was almost made for November 14th, but obviously due to the pandemic. Yep, the pandemic. Yeah. He said that canceled the fight, which that's shocking to hear. That Manny Pacquiao wanted to fight Bud, right? But remember, Bud's last performance wasn't so spectacular against Mean Machine. And if you recall,
because Mean Machine really was a knockdown. They call it a slip in my eyes.
Right, I agree with you on that one. Now, obviously, remember when Manny Pacquiao saw chinks in Keith Thurman armor when Keith nearly got stopped by Lopez in his comeback fight after supposedly his injury, stuff like that. Manny Pacquiao capitalized right away. And I think if it was true what Bob said, Manny Pacquiao probably saw, I saw some chinks in Terence Crawford armor. I'm going to jump on him right now. I got speed. I got power. I could probably catch him. However, after what you saw tonight with the way Terence just knocked out Kell Brook with the freaking jab like no one ever has in the past against Brook. No one ever stopped Brook, period, like that with one punch. So what's your take on, Manny Pacquiao versus Brook? Do you really think Manny Pacquiao will pursue this fight in 2020, spring 2020? knowing the fact that Manny Pacquiao haven't fought in a year and a half. And, you know, obviously to the next spring is going to be 2 years. But before you give me your answer, let me just read the super chat real quick. I appreciate the love and support. My man said Porter really lost to Ugas. Ugas' style is like Bud's. Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. That's a great point, my brother.
Yeah, that's true.
Obviously a lot of people think, oh, well, Porter, he was boxing. He wasn't fighting his usual self with his usual style. That's because Ugas was so effective in the inside. If you go back and watch that fight, you will see Ugas take angles on Porter in the inside. So we got to give Ugas his credit. True. The only thing about Ugas is obviously, I don't know if he could take Terence Crawford power, but Porter doesn't have that much power like Terence does. So, you know, Terence versus Porter, though, like my man said, he will have a lot of problems and issues with Terence Crawford controlling him. And you know, Terence could fight all around the board. But back to my point, do you think when it comes to that Manny Pacquiao fight is realistic? Knowing the fact Manny Pacquiao is coming off 2 years, like a year and a half or 2 years layoff, fighting a guy who's supposedly pound for pound #1, and, you know, after a devastating knockout performance?
I think, like, at this point in Pacquiao's career, he's really being smart. Like, and I'm thinking Pacquiao is thinking financially. He's just trying to make the money. And also, like, I think I don't want to say he's seen something in Crawford that made him want to fight him right away, but I think he probably really think he got a chance of beating him. But in my eyes, I don't see it happen. Pacquiao, he's a great fighter. Keith Thurman, I knew after when he came back that I don't know if he kept having excuses of like he hurting himself and didn't want to fight Earl Spence for that little time. And when he came back against, was it Lopez?
Yeah.
Keith Thurman.
He didn't look
Keith Thurman, he had lost a step. I had seen it.
Yeah.
But
I agree with you.
Pacquiao getting in the ring with Thurman, with Crawford, I think he's asking like to retire. Like, that's gonna put him out. I think Crawford is gonna demolish him.
Right, and let me say this to add on to your point. In my humble opinion, if Errol Spence looking to cash out, because like you said, he making business decisions at this point of his career, because of obviously he's 41, I believe, at this time. He most likely he will go with Errol Spence because that will do more numbers. Wouldn't you say so? Wouldn't you? Is Errol Spence versus Manny Pacquiao bigger?
Stadium.
Right. That's my point.
In Dallas Stadium, of course.
And Errol Spence is just as dangerous as Terence. But my point is, you know, obviously with Errol Spence is more money. So, you know, if he's gonna go the hard route to fight pound for pound #1, Bud might well fight Earl.
Might see something.
Might well fight Earl though.
Yeah.
You know, so that's why I don't see it happening. I just think he saw something against Mean Machine. I think he saw Crawford being vulnerable. However, now seeing how good Crawford looked with his devastating power, I think he might rethink that fight, knowing the fact, you know, if Bob was going to make the fight, he would have made this fight 5 years ago. Remember, when Pacquiao fought Jeff Horn, he was supposed to fight Bud first. He was supposed to fight Bud. And Bud was calling out Pacquiao heavy. And Pacquiao didn't want to fight Crawford then. Yeah, he didn't even want to fight Crawford then. Crazy enough, Bob said, I didn't want to make the fight because Pacquiao was too old. That's what Bob said, which is shocking to hear. Like, oh, really? Now you're trying to make the fight, you know, 5 years later? What sense does that make? And why are you worried? I mean, obviously Pacquiao, you know, smashed them claims by Bob Arum because he fought Keith Thurman and beat Keith Thurman and even Broner. So it's like Bob, it seemed like he didn't even have Terrence's best interest if that was the case, because you should look out for your fighter. That's how Pacquiao became a superstar, by beating Oscar De La Hoya, who was on the way out. So why not do the same thing for your next Mayweather, supposedly, or your next Sugar Ray, Terence Crawford? Why not do that? So that's why I don't see that fight being realistic. I think that Bob just saying all that in order to keep you know, Terence Crawford happy. Like, yeah, I'm trying to give you the big fights, man. I'm doing everything I can. Stick with me. Stick with me.
I got a question. So do you, as far as like to piggyback off Bob Arum a little bit, do you think that his claims about like, do you think the fighters at PBC has really been ducking Crawford, or is it just due to the money situation?
All right, well, let me break it down to you like this.
I feel like this is what I feel like. I feel like that Bob Arum has not been scheduling the fight that Crawford wants strictly because of financially, like what the numbers are bringing in, or
that's a great question,
like,
my brother. That's a great question, and I'm about to tell you the whole absolute truth on this matter because I actually did my homework on this, and I'm gonna give you what Bob said out of his own mouth. Right now, Bob obviously after the fight with Terence Crawford, after he knocked out Kell Brook, he came out and said Errol Spence, he don't want to fight. He don't want to fight Terence Crawford because he will have the same fate as Kell Brook. He will knock him out in four rounds like he did to Kell Brook. Obviously, Bob Arum has his promoter hat on. He's trying to promote Terence Crawford and keep Terence happy. But how ironic is it that now Bob is claiming that Errol Spence is ducking Terence Crawford? But I'm talking about just yesterday. You could go back and watch Bob Arum interview. I just watched it before I went live because it was I was so shocked by what Bob said. Now, I don't know if you noticed, I made a video, I'm going to leave in the comment section below, of Terence stating that he looking to go to PBC. He said that his contract is nearly up with Top Rank, so he looking to move to PBC in order to get all the big names because he can't get the big fights. And you can't blame the fighters.
Yeah, I think
because business.
He was talking to Max Kellerman about that.
And he was talking also to Brian Custer. Shout out to Brian Custer. So my point is, Terence Crawford is taking consideration to leave and go to PBC. He even told Bob Arum that they've been beefing back and forth leading up to this fight. Matter of fact, I don't know if you know about this, but Terence Crawford signed the contract 3 to 4 weeks before the fight to fight Kell Brook, just to show Bob Arum how frustrated he'd been with him not being able to deliver the big fights because he really wanted the Keith Thurmans, the Ugas, and the big fights, right? But Bob Arum shockingly came out yesterday and he said that Terence Crawford, the reason why he can't get the big names is because he only wants Manny Pacquiao and Errol Spence. That's the only guys he wants. He don't want the Keith Thurman fight. He don't want the Ugas fight. He don't want the Porter fight, which that's shocking to hear by Bob. Let me tell you why. Because Keith wanted $10 million to fight Terence. Terence is willing to fight Keith, but Bob is not going to put that much. He's not willing to pay Keith. Yeah, he's not willing to pay Keith that much money. He's like, man, you got paid $2 million against Pacquiao, but you're going to ask $10 million against Terence Crawford coming off a loss. So, but my point is for Bob to blame it on Terence. He said, he can't get these fights because he don't want to fight Keith Thurman and Ugas and Porter. Knowing the fact Bob is not willing to make those fights due to the fact the pandemic, there's no money on the table right now that's going to please both sides. So I'm just showing you how Bob all of a sudden had a change of energy once Terence Crawford stopped Kell Brook because he realized, oh man, I'm about to let Sugar Ray go to PBC. I'm about to let Floyd Mayweather go to PBC. That's how he truly felt.
So,
and let me just follow up.
I don't know if you heard.
I also want to follow up with this because I want to focus on this point because Bob said Errol Spence is ducking. He's ducking Terence Crawford. But the whole absolute truth is that's absolutely false because Bob Arum, a day ago, he came out and said that the Errol Spence fight can't happen right now due to money issue.
Because of the COVID.
Yeah, he said because of the COVID. Yeah, he said a pandemic, there's no gate. He said if Errol Spence fight Terence Crawford right now, how are we going to please these guys and pay them the money they want to get paid and their worth? We can't pay them the money they want to get paid. So the fight can't happen right now because there's no money due to the pandemic, right? But it's funny, he went on about the COVID protocol. He said, listen, when we host an event, we automatically lose $500K just based on the COVID protocols. So instead of having money coming in from the gate, which it'd be like $5 million, which that's completely false. Yeah. If Terence Crawford fight Errol Spence, the gate will be at least $20 million. But like
even with this COVID,
Yeah.
Even with this COVID, if they fought
in
I think
AT&T
that's just a
Stadium,
number.
yeah, AT&T Stadium, they will sell out the 40K. You know, if you know, obviously they can't do 80K, but they could sell out 40K due to the fact they got to cut the number in half due to the pandemic. But Bob said, you know, they're obviously gonna lose out on the gate, which is 5 million. In fact, when in fact it's 20 million. So he said instead of us being plus 5 million going into the fight, we're gonna be minus 500K. That's why we can't make the Errol Spence versus Terence Crawford fight right now due to the pandemic. There's no money, and the pay-per-view era is dead. There's no pay-per-views. You really can't sell pay-per-views, and we know that's not true because obviously Javante does great numbers on pay-per-view. Errol Spence does great numbers on pay-per-view. So just because you don't have, so just because you don't do good numbers on pay-per-view don't mean other networks don't do good numbers. PBC does the best numbers on TV and on pay-per-view. But I'm just showing you how hypothetical it is for Bob to say before the fight can't get made with Errol Spence and Terence Crawford right now, not because of Errol or Terence. They want to fight each other, but because of the pandemic, there's no money right now. And then after the fight, he got his hat promoter on calling out Errol Spence for ducking. It's like you can't make this shit up. You can't make this shit up.
This is my take on it because like a couple of days ago, I don't know if you heard, like Max Kellerman and Terence Crawford had an interview, and he was saying, you know, Bob Aaron said like they was under he was gonna be there for life, and Terence Crawford said he got a couple more months, not even a year, and he's gonna see where it go from there. See, I think Bob Aaron is gonna do whatever he can do to make Terence Crawford happy right now.
Yeah. And I hope Terence don't fall for that old trick in the book, because remember, they all along they promoted Lomachenko as pound for pound number one. During Crawford interview, they erased the Lomachenko losses, putting him over Crawford as pound for pound number one, right? And they will promote Lomachenko fights heavy, and they won't promote Crawford the same way. You know, when it comes just to promotion for the fight. Remember, I mean, who does the biggest numbers on ESPN? It's always been Terence Crawford, not Lomachenko. But they're going to promote the lesser talent and the fighter that's less popular just because he's on the hope list. So I hope Terence Crawford don't fall for that, because like I said, he was just bashing Terence before the fight. He was just bashing Terence before the fight. All of a sudden now he is all this high praise. Remember, Terence even said, I don't want to fight Errol Spence right now because once I beat Errol Spence, I don't want nobody to make no excuses. Oh, he was no longer the same. He said, I want Errol Spence to have a tune-up or two, couple fights, and then come see me once he's 100% ready. And he also said the fight will happen when the money is right. So we know Errol Spence is not avoiding him, because even Terence agrees, Bob Arum agrees, they're all on the same page, but they want to throw out these false narratives just to make Errol Spence look bad when we know Errol Spence cut from the truth cloth. He called out Terence Crawford, he called out Danny Garcia, he called out Keith Thurman, Manny Pacquiao, he called out everybody coming off a car accident. Who does that? Who does that coming off a car accident?
He want to fight the best.
Yeah. I mean, think about it. You coming off a car accident.
Fight the best. I really don't like how ESPN, they if you're not like under top rank under ESPN, like I don't think they give PBC fighters their credit. They gonna always give ESPN fighters they gonna hold them above every other fighters, even if it ain't true.
Always trying to discredit.
This is really this is what I want to see, though. I want Terence Crawford to go and come to PBC, because I want to see a tournament like bracket over there. Like, man, that'll be beautiful.
Golden era all over again. And we're not going to be able to have that golden era and that tournament if Bud sticks with PBC. And you can see Terence have all the talent in the world. So, man, it would be heartbreaking to see Terence Crawford kill more of his prime years instead of going to PBC right away. You can't be loyal to people that's not being loyal to you, that's mistreating you. That's true. Now they want to throw out false narratives, Errol Spence ducking, just because they know they have one more fight left on the deal with Terence. And if they don't make the Errol Spence fight now, Terence could end up leaving and going to PBC. Like I said, you cannot question Errol Spence's heart. Errol Spence coming off a car accident, instead of having a tune-up, he fighting Danny Garcia. That's ridiculous.
He jumping straight in the fire.
That's the truth right there. So, like I said, I just hate these false narratives. Like you said, they don't want to give PBC the credit they deserve. I mean, Floyd Mayweather even went on First Take and he told Max Kellerman and he caught him bluffing. You know, Max was like, yeah, ESPN, we do the biggest numbers. Teofimo, he did 3 million on ESPN. Floyd was like, hold on. He said, nah, PBC, we do big numbers all the time. He said, we do 5 million, 6 million, 4 million all the time. That ain't nothing to us. And we do great numbers on pay-per-view. So you guys ain't going to take no credit away from us. And then Max was trying to fix it. He's like, am I taking credit away? He's like, well, I'm not going to allow you. But it was something like that. This shit was hilarious. But let me read the super chat real quick.
So,
Peace, AKHi. What's the chance of Bud going to PBC in 21? Man, 90% chance. I'll tell you that, because if he don't, that'd be the biggest mistake of his career. Because like I said, you cannot be loyal to people that's not being loyal to you. Bob came out and said that Terence Crawford and Lomachenko have better talent than Tyson Fury. But the reason why Tyson Fury got an $80 million deal with ESPN is because he like a Superman at the heavyweight division. It's like, what? So you got better talent, but you rather give the bigger amount of money to a Superman that have lesser talent. But let me read this other super chat real quick, my brother. Yeah. Jeremy said, highest attendance ever is 29K. You think Bud and Earl almost double that? ? Also, you think they have top 5 gate all time too? # delusional. Man, you don't know shit about boxing.
You don't know shit about boxing.
But you don't know shit about boxing. He said the highest gate ever is 29K. Man, Errol Spence versus Mikey Garcia did 47,000. Where the hell you been?
Yeah.
So do your homework before you start talking. I don't know what the hell you're talking about. Errol Spence versus Mikey Garcia did 47K when it came to the fans that attended the fight. So think about it. Errol Spence is a bigger star now. Terence Crawford is also a big star. Man, they sell out an 80,000 stadium when it comes to an arena.
Easy.
Man, where you been, my man? Where you been, my man? You talking crazy. You talking crazy. But yeah. So
where you think Bud goes from here? Who you think he fight next?
I really want to see Bud go to PBC and start off a tournament. I think a fight with Ugas, if he can't get a Manny Pacquiao, a fight with Porter, a fight with Keith Thurman. Man, I love all these fights. I mean, Danny Garcia, I got to put him on the side because I think Errol Spence is going to beat him. You never know in the sport of boxing, but I think Errol Spence is going to beat him. So, and him coming off a loss to Errol, I don't want to see that fight. Too. Yeah, I don't want to see Danny right now. I just want to see the winners, which is Porter, Keith, Ugas. I think that's who Crawford should be looking at. And if he stays with Top Rank, he's not going to be.
I kind of want to see. For some reason, I know Earl Spence has no interest in fighting Keith Thurman, but I kind of want to see Terence Crawford go on, like, just get rid of Keith Thurman because he talks a little bit too much for me.
Man, listen. Look. I'm gonna tell you one thing about Keith. One time, I want to see him one time in the ring with Earl. I want to see him one time in the ring with Terence. I ain't gonna lie to you. I really want to see that lead up because Earl, man, I don't know what it is. He hate the crap out of Keith, and Keith came out and said that Errol Spence, he fighting his leftover Porter and Danny. Why wouldn't he fight him? But it's obvious he won't fight Keith because Keith is clearly coming off a loss. So why would he fight Keith when his left went out of the window? He wanted to fight Keith when he was undefeated because that's the fight he wanted as bad as he wanted to breathe, according to Earl, right?
I think so Keith, too. And I kind of
but let me finish this point real quick. I believe Keith versus Errol Spence. Keith versus Errol Spence still a great fight because the lead up is going to be crazy. Just knowing how much they hate each other, at least Errol Spence, and the trash talk. Even Terence Crawford. A lot of people say Terence he don't do too much promotion. It's because they catch him on the wrong time. They go to him when he's happy. Go to him when he's mad. You saw him leading up to the Kell Brook fight, how he was trash talking. You saw him bring out the dog in him, and Keith will bring out the dog in Terence because Terence, even though he cool with Keith, as soon as they sign to fight each other, all that love is going to go out of the window and they're going to be trash talking all day. So the lead up and the fight is going to be spectacular. So I would love to see Keith in the ring with both Terence and Errol Spence. What's your take on that?
see, I kind of think the reason why Earl Spence is not fighting Keith Thurman is for one because he lost, and for two, I think it's this role reversal. When Earl Spence was coming up and he steady calling out Keith Thurman, and Keith Thurman was like, "Oh, he's not ready. He didn't want to fight him. He didn't want to give him a chance." So now that Earl at the top, like he like, I don't want to give you that payday. Like I don't want to fight you because you didn't give me that privilege when I was coming up.
Right.
Even though he already like established.
Yes, sir.
But I kind of feel like it's a role reversal right now.
Exactly. The tables turn. It's one of Errol Spence's favorite quotes. Tables turn, and now he the man. He the cash cow. That's why they want to come see him. But great conversation with you, my brother. I appreciate talking with you.
All right.
So
all right, man. Take it easy.
All right. Take care. I just want to break some news to you guys. So Deontay Wilder came out in the Brian Custer interview. I'm going to leave it in the comment section below, in which he said that he's going to have a tune-up since Fury is not man of his word, since he's a coward. He's going to have a tune-up and then fight Tyson Fury in a trilogy match after that, because obviously they're going through mediation as we speak. Now, Bob Arum also came out and said yesterday that if Pulev beats AJ, then the fight to make will be Tyson Fury versus Wilder trilogy, because that's the big money fight right now. So Bob even still want the fight. It's Tyson Fury that's avoiding the fight due to the obvious reason he can no longer cheat in the trilogy. Now, obviously, a lot of people are questioning if Wilder have a rematch clause, and supposedly the pandemic was the reason why the fight got postponed, and then in December it was ESPN and Fox. They both came to an agreement that they want to push the fight to January 21 because the December 19th date had a lot of college games on them. There's a lot of college games on December 19th that they don't want to compete with. So they pushed the fight back, in which now Tyson Fury is like, oh, well, that means I'm no longer obligated to honor the rematch clause, right? So he's trying to find a way out. Now, the reason why the rematch clause still the reason why the rematch clause is still active is because it wasn't Wilder who turned down the fight. It was Fox and ESPN who came to a mutual agreement that the date wasn't good for them. So they obviously had to push the fight back. So I bring that point, knowing the fact the pandemic came into play, and ESPN and Fox. Therefore, according to the terms in the contract, when it came to the rematch clause, they have to go through mediation first. He cannot just sue him right away. The first step is mediation before suing. After mediation, if they don't come to a mutual agreement that, hey, listen, they could pretty much agree we could all have tune-up fights and then we could fight right after. But if they don't come to an agreement, it goes to it goes to pretty much, I don't know, I think it's a lawsuit pretty much after that, because if they can't come to a mutual agreement, it might go to abbreviation. So like I said, after that, that's when it goes to a lawsuit. It goes to court, in which they're going to have an actual judge that is not just Ahmad, is not just a mediator. Now he's actually going to force Tyson Fury to fight Wilder. Now, Tyson Fury could still get out of the rematch clause. However, he's going to have to pay heavy damages. He definitely is going to have to give up his belt. Also, on top of that, in order for them to save face, you already know what the WBC is going to do. They're going to award him a French fries belt, a witness protection belt to save face, and then obviously give the belt back to Wilder. They most likely could do that. In fact, they could probably be working on that right now. But they could all agree to having a tune-up fight first, then fight each other after that in the spring. So just to point out, the first step is mediation before a lawsuit. That's according to the term in the contract. So that's why Wilder is going into mediation with Tyson Fury, in which they all forced to sit down with each other and talk it out with a judge that's retired through Zoom and just talk to each other, see if they could work it out. Obviously, Wilder's already talking about having a tuna fight as well because he don't want to sit on the shelf if Fury's going to have a tune-up. So most likely, I'm thinking they're going to agree to a tune-up and then fight each other, unless Tyson Fury ate too much of that wild boar that doesn't allow his cojones to grow. So if he's now willing to fight Wilder in a trilogy fight without cheating, then obviously the fight won't happen. And Tyson Fury is going to get sued, not just with the rematch clause. On top of the rematch clause, Wilder's going to sue him for cheating. The reason why he haven't sued him yet is because of the fact Wilder is a warrior. He want to put hands on Tyson Fury. He knows if he sues Tyson Fury, he's going to end his career, which he no longer could get his revenge inside of the ring, not outside of the ring. He could get his revenge outside of the ring at any time, but inside of the ring, he only got this chance right now. That's why he's trying to do his best to fight Tyson Fury for the third time. But obviously, Tyson Fury, like Wilder said, he being a coward, he's not living up and honoring his rematch clause. So we'll see. I'll pick up one more call. One more call, so make it quick. I only got 3 minutes. How you doing, IQ? Who this is and where you calling from?
Yo, this is Joey from South Florida.
Yes, sir. All right. Well, I only got 2 minutes. Give me your take on whatever you want to talk about, and just touch on it as fast as you can, because I don't got that much time.
I mean, I just wanted to talk about Terence Crawford with the Kell Brook. I don't know about most people, but when I saw that fight happen, I was like before. I don't know if you remember this, but I was talking about how the odds were pretty ridiculous about them being 15, 14 to 1, 25 to 1. But then I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I felt as if Terence Crawford put that 25 to 1. He showed that 25 to 1 like reason why everybody was betting on him. Like, damn, maybe he was that type of fight. And that's not knocking on Kell Brook, because like Kell Brook said himself, he's in the best shape of his life. That's coming from the man himself, so you can't deny that. But I don't know. I'm me personally, I was just really impressed with this. He did him out worse. He did him in 4 rounds, coming off the win. Kell Brook went all in for this fight. You could tell he put in the work like he hasn't put in the last couple of years. So my thing to you, do you think this pushed up Terence Crawford even more now that he's fought a bigger welterweight? Like, this shows you, like, because even though Kell Brook doesn't necessarily fight like Spence, people were always saying like, oh, Spence may be too big for Crawford. You think that kind of dumbed down that conversation?
Yeah, it answered a lot of questions. Like, remember, leading up to this fight, they were saying, oh, Terence got a suspect chin. Oh, he can't take a punch, And we know Kell Brook could punch. He a knockout artist, you know what I'm saying? Or he got power. I don't want to say he a knockout artist. He got power in his hands. So the fact that he took that chocolate brownie and he didn't get dropped and he ate it, and on top of that, he stopped and named opponent. We never seen Terence against a name opponent at 147. Everybody complained, oh, we haven't seen this, we haven't seen that. Man, we never saw Kell Brook. Huh?
I'm tired of hearing people say that.
Yeah, so it's like that's what I'm saying. This right here proves that he fought a name opponent that supposedly was in a good shape, and he stopped him in a spectacular fashion. Like Kell Brook, he looked spectacular in the first 3 rounds. All of a sudden now, oh, he was washed. Like, how is he washed? He didn't get knocked out to the body and got broken down. No, he got knocked out by 1 punch. We never saw Kell Brook get hurt by 1 punch because, like I said, Terrence's power is real, his skill is real, and he definitely a problem to. And then all these fighters must recognize that 147 Crawford is a problem because he got power, he got speed, he got skill, he got strength. He's physically strong. So yeah, what was your take on that? You think he proved to the world that he could hang in there with the best of the best and dominate?
No question about it. This not even a conversation anymore. I mean, if people aren't looking at it, this man is coming into welterweight fight, and it's stopping everybody he comes across. There should be no question in his power. Regardless of whether you think he's fought the top 5 wrestlers, you can't say 147 isn't a division that Terence Crawford can dominate, can win at, because he's beating top fighters. I mean, people want to say, oh, it's about Kell Brook and this. Kell Brook's not a chain fighter. Let's not forget he got dropped by Earl, Spence, and yeah, got hit by Triple G. But this is Triple G we're talking about. We're talking about Triple G. Everybody looks chinny against Triple G, so that's not really saying.
Yeah, and he didn't even get hurt. And he didn't even get hurt like that against Triple G.
Yeah, but Terence Crawford rocked him. He knocked him across the other side of the ring. Like, if you looked at Kell Brook's face, this man had no idea what hit him. He was still like trying to figure out where he was in the ring. Like that's the type of punch he hit him with. And that was a short jab or just a right punch, because with Crawford he had punching power on both hands. So that just shows you Terence Crawford we already knew that Terence Crawford had the skills. Now we also know that Terence Crawford we already knew, but there should be no question now. Because regardless of whether you think Kell Brook is washed or not, even though I don't, Kell Brook's a big welterweight. And knocking down a big guy like that, you gotta have some dynamite in your hand. So that shouldn't even be questioned. Because I thought Crawford could stop Kell Brook, but I wouldn't have put it. I'm gonna be real with you. I never would have bet that Terence would stop it from still around. I thought it'd be in the later round.
And not like that. Yeah, me too. I had a late round prediction, like around 11 after he break him down. But just to knock him out with a single punch, you know what I'm saying? Have him on quick streak and just, stumbling all over the place. Like you said, Brook didn't even know where he was. He was like, what happened? Why you stop the fight? when Kell Brook wasn't even, he got stopped getting hit by shots that was hitting him while he was blindsided. Like, he wasn't even looking at Crawford. He didn't even know where he was at. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, it just show you how much Terence Crawford, how real his power is. So it's just mind blowing to me to hear people say, yeah, they try to take credit away from Crawford. Like, oh yeah, well, Brook is, he this, he that, he washed. Nah, he not, you saw what kind of shape he was in. Yeah, he's just, Crawford is just the baddest man on the planet right now. That's all it is.
He is. Yeah. He is. Like, I'm gonna be real with you. I'm gonna be honest. I'm a Manny Pacquiao fan. He's my favorite fighter. But even I could say, from that standpoint, 41-year-old Manny Pacquiao, I guarantee he probably wants no peace. I think the fight he's probably going after next, if he was thinking about Terence Crawford and Mikey Garcia just became the top choice right now at this point.
Yeah,
and that's not downing Manny Pacquiao, but Terence Crawford has been for years for Manny Pacquiao a high risk, low reward fight, and it just became even higher.
Yeah, it just got higher. I mean, how high can it get? And Pacquiao, he better off find Conor McGregor, man. You better go for holler at Conor, make a lot of money, and beat his ass. You know what I'm saying? But you fighting Crawford,
40th knockout.
Yeah, fighting Crawford is a suicide mission, man. That's a suicide mission.
Nah.
If you want to suicide, if you want to know what it's like to jump off a bridge and just suicide, that's Pacquiao fighting Crawford. And I'm just being honest, man. And I think Crawford if I'm Pacquiao, I go fight Conor McGregor, make all the money in the world, beat his ass, and retire. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, at least Mikey, because Mikey's still winnable. But Crawford, man, you saw what he did to Kell Brook, man. And Kell Brook is a big guy with an iron chin. So, man.
I was thinking, like, what can Pacquiao do at this point after 2 years of not fighting? If Manny Pacquiao, like you said, after the Kavaliauskas fight, that fight happened, I would have saw it as a closer fight. I still would have had Crawford winning. But now, Crawford just coming off a win like this, Manny Pacquiao hasn't fought. Manny Pacquiao doesn't look like his biggest interest is boxing right now. I mean, like, that's just a dangerous fight. It's just Crawford got all the tools to beat him. So it's a fight that Manny Pacquiao probably just not gonna. It's gonna look the other direction, and no one's gonna look down on him for that.
Right. Now,
Manny Pacquiao's not a fighter who needs to prove himself.
He's 41 right now, so we want to see Crawford versus Earl. That's what we didn't really talk about. Earl versus this is like Floyd said. Pacquiao, his time is up, man. You know what I'm saying? Now it's really Errol Spence versus Crawford. that's the fight of the decade we want to see. But I'm out on time, my brother. Great conversation. You had a lot of great points, and I'll definitely talk to you if you call again on another show.
Likewise, man. Take it easy.
Take care, my brother. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. That's still up this late. Crawford got us hyped. You know what I'm saying? Obviously, the co-main event was heartbreaking, but the main event, Crawford closed the show. Subscribe below, and to be continued on the next episode of Blow by Blow.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to rumble!
Hold it, you're not that pretty. I'm a bad man. Wait. I took up the wall. I took up the wall.
I bear witness, there's only one God, Allah, and Muhammad is his final messenger. That's what I said, Larry, on the bungle fight. Thanking you.
They call me the problem, but you could call me the can man, because anybody can get it. Africans, Americans, Dominicans, Mexicans, anybody can.